Conducting Job, Task, or Performance Analysis by Catherine P. Fulford, Professor, University of Hawaii at Manoa. No Band-Aids, please. In this video, that's the second part of Needs Assessment, we're going to be talking about how you can make changes in organizations rather than putting Band-Aid solutions on them. In this part, we'll be talking about how to conduct a task analysis, identify constraints and resources, identify learner characteristics, and identify goals. Step 3 is performance or task analysis, also called job analysis. You start with someone's job, you break it down into a set of functions, and then you break it down into a set of tasks. At the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation, I developed a training package to help people conduct task analysis with various professions. I conducted a number of these myself, so I hope this video will be useful to you. Task analysis are typically done before instruction is developed. It can also be used, in this case, for creating professional licensing exams. A lot of times when we think of jobs, we think of that job where I'd like to pursue a career that will allow me to benefit humankind but still have the weekends off. Don't we all want that, rather than having a job that's so overwhelming it's almost impossible to do? So why do we conduct a task analysis? It helps designers to determine what should be for a particular job, what is not being accomplished, and whether there are not enough or too many tasks, and what needs to be learned for a particular position, for beginning workers, immediate, or advanced workers. Will the change we propose add more tasks or remove tasks? Does another position need to be added to accomplish the job, or does the job need to be eliminated or automated? Will it make the job more efficient and effective? One of today's dilemmas is multitasking. We all have too much to do and too little time. Then someone wants to add something new, so we multitask. Multitasking is like holding everyone's birthday party on the same day. Nobody gets very much attention. Researchers say that multitasking is actually a myth. Studies show that we frequently overestimate our ability to handle multiple tasks. We really just switch our attention from task to task. People who are regularly bombarded with several streams of electronic information do not pay attention, control their memory, or switch from one job to another, as well as those who prefer to complete one task at a time. It can reduce productivity by approximately 40% to multitask. It makes it difficult to tune out distractions that can slow progress. The fraction of a second it takes to change task could mean life or death. So let's take a look at how to do a task analysis and figure out what are the right amount of tasks to keep from having to multitask. The purpose of a task analysis then is to look at a job, position, or function and to see whether it's operating in an efficient and effective manner. What we don't want to do is have a person with too little or too many tasks so that they feel like they have to multitask. Think of it as an outline. First we have the function, and then a subset of that is the task, and a subset of that is an activity. When we go to develop instruction, we will then create objectives and content items as well as evaluation items, and continue to do this until our instruction is complete. These are what functions look like. These are the big categories. Generally, there are only 15 to 20 functions for each worker. If there are more than this, the person probably has too many. Or, if the functions are really large, they may not have as many. When I did this in various positions that I was in, I would usually train 15 to 20 job experts to develop the functions and tasks. In this particular one, I was working with health and rehabilitative services, with about 60 managers from all over the district. But what we found is each type of manager was different. This particular one has to do with foster children. So we divided people into groups according to their type of position and let them develop a set of functions. Next is our job task analysis worksheet. This is where your function would go, and now what we're going to do is break that function into a set of tasks. So this helps the experts to determine the task. We need to look at what goes into this particular function and what comes out of it, as well as what kind of equipment and resources we need to do the job, and what kind of skills, knowledge, and ability we need. Notice that tasks are more specific than functions, and so there are many more of them. To make them specific, we write it in a certain way: action, object, and qualifier. So when you're writing task, you use action verbs, your object is a descriptive noun, and your qualifier might be how, when, where, why, what, how much of, or you might not have a qualifier. So action, object, qualifier. Notice that you may use one or more qualifiers. It depends on the task needed. Here's a set of action verbs for job task analysis. There are a lot of them listed on many websites. So here are some examples. For how: negotiate a visitation plan with parents, guardian ad litem, and the foster parents. When: complete court hearing within 45 days of filing the performance agreement. Where: incorporate field note with case narrative. Why: complete paperwork to initiate redeterminations. What: determine child's eligibility for independent living grant. How much of: meet with each counselor at least once a month. You see, they're very specific. Let's look more closely at functions. Here's a good example. These are the general functions of a university professor: advise students, participate in department meetings, conduct research, publish articles in professional journals, attend and present at professional conferences, write grants, research and learn relevant technologies, deliver classroom instruction, deliver online instruction, create instructional materials, evaluate student performance, implement technology integration, participate in community service, participate in university committees, participate in professional organizations. Okay, let's continue by looking at the job task analysis worksheet. Okay, here we write in the job of professor and the function deliver classroom instruction. Examples of inputs would be PowerPoint presentation, handouts, class text, materials for classroom activity, instructor's knowledge, instructional objectives, methods for integrating technology in the instruction, and educational standards. Outputs would be relevant class discussion, relevant activities, sound instruction, instructional objective is met, the educational standards are met, there's a complete lesson, and successful technology integration. Equipment and resources would be wireless internet access, computer software, laptop computer, LCD projector, projection screen, external speakers, whiteboard, remote control presentation tool. Our skills, knowledge, and ability would be content knowledge, time management skills, learning theory, computer software knowledge, computer basics, classroom management skills, group interpersonal skills, communication skills, leadership ability, and problem-solving skills. Now from those, we write our task. Present instructional materials to students, guide activities efficiently, facilitate relevant discussion among students, incorporate tools into course instruction, use tools effectively for instruction, manage classroom environment effectively, manage class time efficiently, monitor student responses, attention levels, and comprehension throughout the instruction, solicit student feedback as necessary, manage classroom equipment effectively. So this gives you a sense of what you do in a task analysis. In every university, of course, it would be different depending on the materials and what's expected at each university. Okay, let's look at another example. This one is not a good one. Let's see what the problem is. These are job functions of a teacher at Riverdale Elementary. It includes the following: monitoring well-being of students, compliance with state policy on abuse and harassment, ordering classroom supplies, attend grade-level meetings, plan daily class lessons, basic maintenance and security of classroom equipment, determine evaluation schema for students' grades, communicate with parents, communicate with administration, includes counselor and nurse, coordination of grade-level activities with other teachers, seek opportunities for professional growth, coordination of joint projects with other teachers, maintenance of clear records for attendance and evaluation, participate in school functions, and select appropriate media for instruction. Can you see what the problem is? One of the problems is that these are not written in a parallel manner. Notice that some of them use verbs and others do not. So try to always start your functions like you would a task with your action verb first. Now let's take a look at the job task analysis worksheet. This continues the poor example. Okay, our function is plan daily lessons. But down here, we have compile data on student performance and manage student behavior. That really isn't part of planning, that's part of delivery. So make sure that all of your tasks, inputs, outputs, equipment and resources, and skills, knowledge, and ability match the function that you're working on. Next, once you have all of your tasks in order, you want to survey the population of people with that same job. The first thing you do is put your functions into similar groups. So in this example, it's examination. So our function is initial evaluation. One of our tasks is obtain a statement of chief complaint. Next, you want to build your survey to make sure it includes the entry-level task. In other words, should a beginning practitioner be able to perform this work activity? Frequency. With what percentage of patients have you performed this activity during the past year? And potential for harm. How much harm could inability to perform this work activity cause? You can imagine if you're creating instruction, and even if it was once in a lifetime, you would want to make sure that the person was competent. So these are the three things that help you narrow down the difference between what should be taught and what perhaps could be learned on the job. It also helps you determine what priorities there are for creating things like professional exams. Step 4. Identify constraints and resources. First, you have physical constraints and resources: personnel, time, money, equipment, and facilities. You also might have administrative ones: goals, policies, plans, procedures, and support. Step 5. Identify learner characteristics. First, you have the cognitive. These might include skills and ability level, grade point average, grade level, language proficiency. In the physiological area, you might have age, physical health, emotional health, special needs. In the affective domain, motivation, interest, preferences. And social characteristics: socioeconomic status, marital status, social activities, social involvement, and peer influence. You have to look at your specific workers and age group to figure out what you need to know about your learners to create good instruction. Step 7 is to identify goals. What you need to be able to do is, given a room full of people, how would you separate them into two piles? Those who had and those who had not achieved the goal. So when you're writing goals, goals should link to the data reported and the discrepancies identified. They may include operational goals for inputs, processes, products, or outputs, but outcomes must be included. Goals should clearly relate to the needs or problem statement. One way to do this is to consider using what are called SMART goals. What this means is those that are specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant, as well as time-bound. Here's some examples of operational goals. Increase students' access to technology. Increase professional development for teachers. Increase the communication between technology development. Develop a technology plan. Increase the number of students graduating with technology-related skills. But these are not at the alpha level. They involve solutions. So in addition to these, you need goals having to do with your outcome. Here's a set from another example. In this project, students did a nice job of creating alpha-level outcome goals. Increase patient knowledge of oral disease and how poor oral hygiene contributes to tooth loss as well as decreased overall health. Increase motivation of patients to apply sufficient resources toward attainment of their oral health goals. Reduce dental emergencies due to poor oral health by 75%. Achieve patient optimal oral health. Decrease the lifetime dental expenditure of the patient to less than $2,000. Increase the number of preventative care visits by twice to reduce dental emergency visits. Let's do a SMART check with one of our outcome goals. Okay, this is specific. Preventative care visits. Increase number. Yes, that's measurable. By twice. Yes, that's achievable. Dental emergency visit certainly seems relevant. And time-bound. That seems to be missing. What could I add? In the next 5 years? Yes, then it's time-bound. So you see, even as good as those goals were, they were still missing parts. Make sure that you truly have SMART goals. So after we've completed our needs assessment, we need to figure out what our design implications and recommended solutions are for the needs that we've identified. Let's take a look at this recommendation. In terms of our design implications, it must be capable of altering patient beliefs. It also must provide sufficient motivation. It must be supported by clinical research. And it must be cost-effective, as well as accommodate the variety of cultures, languages, and education levels of our patients. So this has done a good job on the design implications. Now let's look at our solutions. Conduct numerous workshops with teachers and tech coordinators at schools throughout the state, presenting the EOHANA website and demonstrating its usefulness to teachers. Okay, so that's well stated. Let's look at both the pros and cons of this approach. It's always a good idea to do that when you're recommending solutions to your client or your organization. For example, this approach will help reach large numbers of teachers and introduce them to the website in a low-pressure, familiar environment. Okay, what are the cons? Coordination of workshops will be a large task and be influenced by cooperation of principals. A lot of personnel, time, energy, and travel expenses would be devoted to this large-scale approach. So when you provide a solution, by giving your pros and cons, it gives your organization something to base their decisions on. But that's not quite enough. You also must state why you think one particular solution or another is the best. For example, this study proposes adopting recommendation number 6, and then state why. This solution can instruct all travel-related businesses in Moku and their clients. It's the most cost-effective method, and the development of accreditation guidelines will overcome any drawbacks. Notice, we're restating the alpha level here, preserving the Moku experience and ensuring the sustainability of Moku's ecotourism industry. Summary and conclusions. Remember, this is your opportunity to make final convincing arguments to your audience. Let's take a look at this example. The result of this investigation that shows that you're about to summarize. It provides details and also says that there are implications and 4 alternative solutions. So essentially, you're summarizing what the document's about. So don't forget, no band-aids, please. For your further study, here are some references.